Chapter 32:10. Blue veins appeared on Junju Shang's forehead when he heard these words. His heart was boiling with anger. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He pushed Wanyin Qianhua away. Then, he turned around and left with large strides. He walked towards the bamboo forest. Wanyin Qianhua was pushed away by a force. She lost her balance and retreated a few steps. Just as she was about to follow, she bumped into a barrier that he had set up. Looking at the isolation barrier in front of her, Wanyin Qianhua was stunned. She then laughed. Junju Shang, you coward! Seeing that she couldn't enter the barrier, she thought for a while and walked back. She was prepared to walk around. She had been here for a while, and most of the people here knew her. Just as she had said, the people in the sect had been spreading rumors about her relationship with Junju Shang. Therefore, their attitude towards her could be considered to be quite respectful. Since she had nothing to do, she went to a big tree behind the rockery to rest. The lush leaves covered her so that the people below couldn't see her. The sun also didn't shine on her body. And resting here is quite good. It's comfortable, she murmured. Yawning, she closed her eyes and rested. She didn't know how much time had passed when she heard some strange noises while she was sleeping soundly. She opened her eyes and looked around. She saw a man and a woman hugging each other tightly under a tree not far away in broad daylight. They were doing something out of the ordinary. TSK. The world's morals are degenerating with each passing day. Their courage is too big. Although this place is a bit remote, they should wait for the sun to set if they want to do this kind of thing. Otherwise, wouldn't it be very embarrassing if they were discovered? However, this woman's figure is also very good. Look at this man's face of enjoyment. His hand is even reaching into the woman's clothes. TSK. This courage. She stood on the tree and looked at the woman's clothes. Half of her clothes were already taken off, revealing her snow-white shoulders. Her chest was faintly discernible, and her long skirt was gently lifted, revealing a pair of long, slender, and smooth legs. On the other hand, the man's clothes were intact. He was panting slightly. He had an anxious look on his face as he buried his head in the woman's chest. When his hand reached under the woman's body, it was caught by her. Don't! The woman half pushed him away and sat up. She pulled up her clothes and looked around. With a shy expression, she asked, Senior Marshal Brother Chun, when will you come to my house to propose marriage? The man's eyes flashed. He chuckled and gently lifted the woman's chin. With an affectionate look, he said, There have been a lot of things happening in the family recently. After a while, I will send a message back to the family and invite them to propose marriage. As he spoke, his hands began to move erratically again. Don't worry, I will definitely propose marriage. I will definitely marry you. Hearing these words, Wanyin Qianhua laughed in his heart. This man clearly wanted to take advantage of her. The sweet words that came out of his mouth could only deceive a little girl. This kind of man who started to take advantage of a woman before marriage. How could he be a good person? He reckoned that if this woman let him get his hands on her, she would definitely dump him in the next instant. Looking at the two people who had fallen together again, she glanced with her beautiful eyes, and an indescribable smile appeared on her beautiful face. Immediately, she waved her hand, and a transparent spirit flew out from her hand towards the two people. Chapter 32:11. Woo-woo, the resentful voice rang out, scaring the two so much that their faces turned pale and they cried out at the same time. Ah, who is it? The man quickly got up, and the woman also quickly pulled her clothes and stood up. She hid behind the man to tidy up her clothes and messy hair. Wuda, another faint howl rang out. They couldn't see what was beside them, but they could feel a cold wind blowing and their hair stood on end. The two couldn't help but cry out in alarm and quickly leave the place. Wanyin Qianhua chuckled and waved her hand to call the spirit back. She continued to sleep on the tree. In the evening, she jumped down from the tree and walked towards the bamboo forest. She originally wanted to go to Junju Shang's place to take a look, who knew that the barrier was still there and she couldn't pass through. Seeing this, she smiled and walked toward the bamboo house where she lived. However, she didn't expect that the next morning someone would come to report to her. Miss Wanyin, your clansmen have come to take you back." When she heard this, Wanyan Xianhua, who was still sleepy, walked out of the bamboo house. She glanced at him and asked, "What did you say?" Inexplicably, when he heard this voice, the steward's heart trembled. He lowered his head and said, "Your clansmen have come to take you back. They're right in front." Wanyan Xianhua chuckled. "Why are my clansmen here?" This is because the sect leader ordered for the Wanyan clan to come and take you back," the steward said carefully. "So, you notified them?" Wanyan Xianhua's beautiful eyes turned and landed on the other side of the bamboo house. "Your sect leader knows." The sect leader knows. Hearing this, she didn't know what to think. She paused for a moment and then walked forward. "Let's go. Bring me to see them." "Yes," the steward said, and quickly led her to the front. In front of the side hall, a middle-aged man and a young man were sitting and drinking tea. The young man looked at the entrance of the hall from time to time, as if to see if the person he wanted to see had come. The person in the hall who was receiving the two of them was an elder. The elder glanced at them and smiled. "Don't be anxious. Miss Wanyan will be here in a moment. She lives in the Bamboo Peak and is a little far from here. She should be here soon after drinking a cup of tea." When the middle-aged man heard this, he put down his teacup and cupped his hands to the elder. "This time, thank you for your help. If Qianhua didn't happen to meet the unfettered sovereign, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to escape this time. We will definitely remember the great kindness of the unfettered sovereign." "Oh, you're too serious." The elder smiled. Although he heard some things about the sect leader and Wanyan Qianhua, it was inappropriate for him to say more. Therefore, he just smiled and didn't say much. At present, they still had to send Wanyan Qianhua away. After all, if the sect leader wanted her to leave, they couldn't keep her in the sect. However, Wanyan Qianhua was not an ordinary woman, and she was not the kind of person who cared about worldly views. This time, between her and the sect leader, it was obvious that she fell in love with him first. It would be difficult to let her leave. She didn't know if these two people had the ability to bring her back from the Xiaoyao sect. Chapter 32:12. He thought for a while. Not long after, the man who was sitting and looking out of the hall stood up happily and went outside. Seeing this, he looked up at the door of the hall. "Qianhua." The man quickly stepped forward. When he saw Wanyan Qianhua coming in, he was very happy. He looked at her up and down and asked, "Is your injury better? I haven't seen you for so long. I'm really worried." Wanyan Qianhua looked at the man and nodded slightly. "Thank you for your concern. I'm fine." She pulled away from him and walked inside. At the same time, she looked at the middle-aged man who was sitting. "Qianhua greets seventh uncle." She bowed to the middle-aged man and called out, "In." The middle-aged man nodded slightly and looked at her. "It seems that your injury should be almost healed." Wanyan Qianhua smiled slightly. "It's all because Xiao Yao Jun took good care of me. If it weren't for him, my injury wouldn't have healed so quickly." She nodded slightly to the elder and called out, "Hello, elder." When the middle-aged man heard this, he said, "Since your injury has healed, you should go back. You can't keep disturbing a Xiao Yao swordmaster here. This time, we came specially to pick you up." "Yes, Qianhua. The people in the clan are very worried about your injury. Now that your injury has healed, you should go back with us." The man's voice paused, looked at the elder and said, "After all, this is the Xiaoyao sect. You're not a disciple of the Xiaoyao sect. It's not appropriate to stay here for a long time." Hearing this, Wanyan Qianhua smiled and said, "Seventh uncle, I can't go back with you now." "Why?" Before the middle-aged man spoke, the young man had already asked anxiously, "Qianhua, when we just came in, we heard many disciples talking about you and Xiaoyao swordmaster. Do you know how much it will affect your reputation if you stay here?" Ahem. Hearing this, the elder who had been pretending to drink tea and didn't listen to them coughed a little embarrassedly. He put down the teacup and stood up. "You can talk about this first. I remember that I still have something to do, so I'll go back first. If you're not in a hurry to go back, you can stay here for the night. I'll let the disciples arrange for you later." As he spoke, the elder smiled and cupped his hands towards the middle-aged man before turning around to leave. He was too embarrassed to stay behind to accompany the guest, because he was afraid that he would hear something inappropriate. If that happened, It would be awkward for him to stay here. The man looked at her nervously, afraid that he would hear something he didn't want to hear from her. Wanyan Qianhua almost ignored the young man. She looked at the middle-aged man and said, "Seventh uncle, Xiao Yao Jun saved me. I am indebted to him. I have to repay him." Her voice paused, and she looked serious. "Moreover, I can't deny that I am moved by Xiao Yao Jun. For the first time in so many years, I am moved by a man. Although I know that there is some distance between us, and even if I want to be together with him, I'll have to face a lot of criticism and difficulties, but I don't want to give up." Chapter 32:13. He looked at Wanyan Qianhua with a heartbroken and sorrowful look. It seemed that he was attracted to a man for the first time in many years, but he was not the one who hurt this man. The middle-aged man pondered. He didn't get angry, nor did he scold her. He just looked at Wanyan Qianhua with a serious face. After a long time, he asked, "Are you serious? In this life, I only recognize him." Wanyan Qianhua said with determination in her beautiful eyes. Maybe others would say that she had known him for such a short time. How could she have such deep feelings for him? If a woman treated a man like this in the past, she would also feel that she couldn't understand. But when this person was herself, she knew that sometimes falling in love with a person only needed a moment, or even just a glance, and it could be forever. She couldn't say why she fell in love with Jun Shang, because in her eyes, he was a cold man at first. Moreover, he was an old man who she didn't know how many years old. But with those days of contact, from the beginning to the end, she didn't know what was going on with her. How did it become real? Even if she knew that this man didn't fall in love with her, even if she knew that this man had been avoiding her and didn't want to have anything to do with her, she still didn't want to give up so easily. Sword Master Xiao Yao is already hundreds of years old. You actually fell in love with a hundreds of years old man? You actually fell in love with such a person? The young man was a little agitated and angry. He couldn't accept it. He had always liked Qianhua. Everyone in the clan knew that he liked her. But in order to avoid him, she went to the immortal sect to cultivate. She didn't return to the clan for a year. Now, she said that she fell in love with the master of the Xiao Yao sect, Jun Shang. Why? What was so good about that Jun Shang? Why could he make her fall in love with him in such a short time? How did he lose to Jun Shang? He couldn't accept it. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he looked at Wanyan Qianhua and said, "Qianhua, you have to go back with us. You can't stay here. You can't lose your reputation for a hundreds of years old man. You can't disregard the face of our Wanyan clan." Wanyan Qianhua's gaze turned cold. She stared at the man, and a cold aura emanated from her body. "You keep saying 100-year-old old man. Do you know who you're talking about? Who gave you the guts to be so rude to the master of the unfettered sect?" Qianhua stood up, flicked his sleeves, and put his hands behind his back. He stared at him coldly. "I, Wanyan Qianhua, know what I'm doing. I don't need you to remind me." When the middle-aged man saw this, he raised his hand and said, "Okay, you two stop arguing. If others hear this, they'll think that something bad has happened." He motioned for them to sit down, and then said to Wanyan Qianhua, "Qianhua, this time, the master of the Xiao Yao sect sent us a message and asked us to come back. From this point of view, he doesn't have any feelings for you. If you continue to stay here, I'm afraid you'll suffer. Seventh uncle is worried about you. He doesn't want you to fall in too deep and get hurt too badly in the future. After all, you and the master of the Xiao Yao sect are." Chapter 32:14. Seeing her firm tone and unwavering expression as she said these words, the middle-aged man pondered for a moment. After a long time, he sighed softly. "Fine. If it was any other disciple in the clan, I naturally wouldn't let them do as they pleased. But since it's you, I will respect your wishes and won't stop you. After returning to the clan, I will also report the situation to the family head." He looked at her and said, "Since you want to stay, then we won't stay for long. But you have to remember that you chose this path yourself. No matter how many difficulties, criticisms, or pain you encounter in the future, our Wanyan family can't stand up for you. But if you're tired in the future and want to go home, feel free to come back. There will always be a place for you in the Wanyin family. Hearing this, Wanyin Qianhua felt a warm current in her heart. She looked at him and thanked him solemnly. Thank you, seventh uncle. Qianhua knows. She knew because she was the one who fell into this relationship first. She was the one who was moved first. She was the one who insisted on staying here. Therefore, even if she suffered any criticism because of this relationship in the future, the clan couldn't come forward to solve it for her. If that was the case, she would really ruin the reputation of the entire Wanyin family. He could say that there would always be a place for her in the Wanyin family. This was already giving her the greatest tolerance and support. The young man heard these words and looked at this scene, but he couldn't say anything. What else could he say? The person he loved didn't love him back. What else could he say? Then we will go back first. You tell that elder. The middle-aged man said. After saying some good words, he said to the young man, let's go. The man followed his seventh uncle out. He paused and looked back at Wanyin Qianhua. Thousands of words were in that complicated look. In the end, he only said one sentence. Qianhua, take care. With that, he strode out. Wanyin Qianhua didn't send them off. She just watched them leave until their figures disappeared from her sight. However, at this time, she saw the elder come in again. The elder glanced at Wanyin Qianhua. He didn't seem surprised that she didn't leave. He just coughed lightly and said, I heard from the disciples that your seventh uncle and the others left, so I came to take a look. Wanyin Qianhua nodded. They left. I will stay here for a while. Hearing this, the elder smiled. That's good. You can stay here. You can stay for as long as you want. But the sect master, I will tell him. Elder, you don't have to worry. She said, bowed to the elder, and then turned to leave. Seeing Wanyin Qianhua leave, the elder stood there and stroked his beard. He thought to himself, the sect master has cultivated for many years and experienced countless experiences and tests, but he hasn't experienced the tribulation of love. This time, he saved Wanyin Qianhua, so coincidentally. It's probably related to his tribulation of love. I just don't know what will happen to these two people in the future. From his point of view, Wanyin Qianhua was very outstanding in all aspects. He was also very compatible with the sect master. If the two of them could have a happy ending, it could be considered that one of his worries had been removed. Chapter 32:15. Wanyin Qianhua walked towards the bamboo forest. Seeing that the barrier had been removed, she couldn't help but curl her lips into a flirtatious smile. She playfully said, could it be that you thought she had left? That's why you removed the barrier? She walked forward and arrived in front of the bamboo house. She saw a man in white holding an ancient book and reading it. She pushed the door open and walked in. It seems like Xiao Yao Jun is very free. Her beautiful eyes fell on him. She glanced at the book in his hand and said, with Xiao Yao Jun's knowledge, do you still need to read this kind of miscellaneous book? As she spoke, she had already entered the house. Her body seemed to have no bones as she sat down on the couch next to Jun Jushang. She supported her chin with one hand and looked at him with interest. Xiao Yao Jun, how could you let someone send a message to the Wanyin clan and let them take me back? You're not very kind to do this. Jun Jushang looked at her in front of him. His voice was calm and even carried a trace of coldness as he asked, why haven't you left? Didn't I tell you already? My heart is in love with the unfettered Lord. How can I leave before the unfettered Lord reciprocates my feelings? She twirled her fingers and played with her hair. Her beautiful eyes fell on the man in front of her. She said it lightly, as if she was just casually saying it. However, only she knew that she was nervous and shy. After all, as a woman, how could she remain calm when confessing to a man she loved? However, she had always been a person who didn't care about trifles. She didn't care about how others looked at her. That was why she could say it so calmly. That was why she was able to be ignored time and time again. After being ignored, she still hoped to get a response. She knew that for a woman with such a beautiful appearance like her, many people wouldn't believe her if she said that she loved a man, because she had the appearance of a bad woman. Every frown and smile of hers had a kind of seductive charm. She gave people the feeling that she was a bad woman who wouldn't give her true feelings. Because of this, if she wanted to get a response from someone she loved, she was afraid that she would have to pay more than others. It's impossible between you and me. Don't waste your time on me, Jun Jushang said. He put down the book in his hand and stood up. He was about to walk out when he saw that the boneless woman had already arrived in front of him and was blocking his way. If you haven't tried, how do you know it's impossible with me? Wanyan Xianhua looked at him, only to see that his calm and indifferent eyes were bottomless, as deep as the sea. It was impossible to see what he was thinking. Jun Jushang frowned as he looked at her. His voice was as cold as an icicle. You're a woman, yet you're so shameless. If I knew that you would pester me because I saved you, then I wouldn't have saved you. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and strode outside. Wanyan Xianhua listened to the words that pierced her heart like ice shards. She only felt a chill spread from her heart, causing her to involuntarily shiver. Chapter 32:16. She stood there, thinking about something. She didn't move for a long time. After a while, she raised her head and looked outside. Jun Jueshang was nowhere to be seen. However, what he said just now was still echoing in her ears, that am I really shameless? She murmured softly, with a trace of confusion in her eyes. Do you regret saving me? In the past, it was those men who chased after her. Now, it was her turn to chase after someone. However, she was ruthlessly rejected time and time again. At this moment, she clearly felt how hurtful the rejection was. Although she knew that it wouldn't be easy to get this love from him, and if they were to be together, they would have to go through a lot of problems. However, she couldn't help but feel a trace of confusion at this moment. Was it really just her wishful thinking? No matter how hard she tried, she wouldn't be able to go far. Did she really want to continue? She, who had never experienced, was at a loss at this moment. The words she said to her seventh uncle were still echoing in her ears. However, she was at a loss at this moment. I wonder what she would do if it was Xiao Jiao. She murmured and thought of Feng Jiao. What would she do if it was her? She walked out slowly and walked back to her bamboo house listlessly. Therefore, she didn't see that after she left, a white figure walked out from the bamboo forest and looked at her quietly with his hands clasped behind his back. Jun Jushang's eyes were as deep as the sea. His body was still as indifferent as before. He quietly watched Wanyan Xianhua return to her bamboo house. Then, he closed his eyes and covered his expression as he walked into the house. After returning to her bamboo house, Wanyan Xianhua took out her communication jade with Feng Jiao. She was hesitating whether she should ask Feng Jiao or not. Therefore, she kept playing with the communication jade in her hand. Only when the sky outside was getting dark did she decide to tell Feng Jiao about it. At the same time, she wanted to ask what she would do if it was her. On the other side, Feng Jiao didn't know about it. Because of the beast form elixir, she had been in her beast form during the day and human form during the night. She had been wandering in the forest. On this day, as the sky was getting dark, she found a cave residence and planned to cultivate her spiritual aura. Therefore, she didn't notice the message on the communication jade in her space. She stayed in the forest for half a month. During this half a month, she went to the forest to hunt demonic beasts during the day to improve her reaction and fighting strength. When she returned to her human form at night, she cultivated her spiritual aura. Just like that, half a month had passed. This morning, when she opened her eyes and found that she was still in her human form, she couldn't help but smile. Is the effect of the beast form elixir finally gone? It's been half a month. That's really long. But thinking about it, how could a 7th level beast form elixir restore her original form in 2 or 3 days? Looks like I have to celebrate today. She was in a good mood today and wanted to celebrate. When she walked in the forest, some small demonic beasts around her automatically avoided her. After all, during this half a month, all the demonic beasts in this area were afraid of her. When they saw her, they would turn around and leave. Chapter 32:17. Other than these people, there was also the young man she had saved and 2 injured elders. However, the one who was in the worst condition was the woman who was being carried by her father. After not seeing her for half a month, the woman's face had become pale and bloodless. There were large scars all over her body, and her aura was extremely weak. She looked like she would not live for long. "It's you, fairy." The man she had saved shouted in surprise. Because his leg was injured, he limped over to Fengjiu. "Fairy, I didn't expect to meet you here again. You saved me last time. I haven't thanked you yet." The man stared at the woman in red before him in excitement. Now that he had seen her again, he was certain that what he had seen that day was real. The woman before him was still dressed in a dazzling red robe, and she was still as beautiful as before. Although her eyes were cold, he felt a sense of familiarity and excitement when he met his savior again. "Fairy, thank you for saving my life last time." The man bowed solemnly to Fengjiu to express his gratitude. Fengjiu nodded. "It was nothing. This is..." The middle-aged man, carrying his daughter, came to the front and looked at Fengjiu and read. Although the woman was alone, she was extremely beautiful and had an extraordinary temperament. He could not help but be surprised. This woman was very brave. She actually dared to come here alone and was in such a dangerous place. Yet, she was still calm and collected. She was definitely not someone ordinary women could compare to. "Father, we got lost some time ago. I was chased by a demon wolf in the forest. It was this fairy who saved me." The man turned around and said excitedly, "When I came back to my senses, the fairy had already left. I didn't expect to meet you here again. It's really fate." Hearing this, the corner of Fengjiu's mouth twitched. However, she only smiled and did not say anything else. "I see." The middle-aged man came to a sudden realization. Only then did he place his daughter on his back under a tree to rest. Then he cupped his hands and bowed to Fengjiu. "Thank you, fairy, for saving my child. I am extremely grateful." Fengjiu nodded. Her gaze fell on the woman and said, "This lady seems to be quite sick." Hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression darkened. "This is my daughter. Her body is not good, and she has been with us for a long time. Her body cannot take it and collapsed. I know a little about medicine. If you don't mind, I can take a look at her," Fengjiu said as her gaze fell on the woman. This woman was somewhat faded with her. Now that the beast form pill's effects had worn off, it would not be a problem to treat her with acupuncture. Hearing these words, the middle-aged man and the others were stunned. There was no surprise, only hesitation and inquiry. Suddenly, a person appeared out of nowhere, claiming that he knew medicine and wanted to treat his daughter. Why did it sound a little unreliable? Although he knew that his daughter's health was not good, especially now, it did not mean that he could let his daughter be treated by a random person who came out and said that he knew medicine. After all, who knew if something more serious would happen? As a doctor and an alchemist, Fengjiu could guess their feelings and understand their distrust. Since he was going to help, then he would help until the end. Chapter 32:18. Can you be at ease now? Fengjiu looked at the middle-aged man and asked. In his heart, he thought that it was rare for her to be so kind as to want to save someone. However, he didn't expect that she would have to show her badge before the other party would believe in her medical skills. If it wasn't for their previous relationship, she probably wouldn't have bothered with him. After all, as the ghost doctor, she had her own pride. Mainly, it was very rare for her to open her mouth to treat someone. When they saw the badge, several people couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. They looked at the young woman in front of them in disbelief, especially the middle-aged man, who was extremely emotional. His eyes were red. It was this Chung who didn't recognize Mount Tai. "I was rude. I was rude." The middle-aged man repeatedly apologized to Fengjiu while bowing deeply to Fengjiu. "Thank you for your trouble." Fengjiu nodded slightly and went to the woman to take her pulse. Perhaps because of the touch, the woman woke up from her deep sleep. She looked at the woman and read in a daze. She didn't know why, but the moment she opened her eyes, she actually saw the woman in red in front of her as the beautiful red little beast. "Who are you?" the woman asked, a pair of listless eyes staring at Fengjiu. Fengjiu smiled slightly. "You can call me the ghost doctor." "Ghost doctor? You're a doctor?" The woman looked at her. Seeing the smile on her lips, it made that beautiful face even more moving. She couldn't help but praise from the bottom of her heart. "You're really beautiful." Fengjiu smiled and said, I'll help you with the acupuncture. Try to relax your body as much as possible. Thank you, but my illness is not easy to cure. I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you. The woman said, still looking at the beautiful woman in front of her. She felt that the woman's beauty was so moving and pleasing to the eye. Even her mood couldn't help but improve. Feng Jiu didn't say much. He just took out the silver needles and started to treat the woman. It was unknown if the woman was too tired or if her body couldn't take it, but she gradually closed her eyes and fell asleep. The few people at the side watched with their hearts in their mouths. They were nervous and apprehensive, especially when they saw the woman in red take out the silver needles one by one and insert them without thinking. That kind of casual and that kind of technique made their foreheads break out in a cold sweat. However, when they thought of the badge, everyone comforted themselves. It's okay, it's okay. The other party have that kind of badge. Their worries can be said to be superfluous. About an hour later, Feng Jiu put away the silver needles. At the same time, he took out a pill and fed it to the woman. Finally, he sent a trace of the life force of the green lotus into her body. Finally, he stood up. It's done. She put everything away and looked at them. Especially the middle-aged man. He looked at Feng Jiu in a daze. His lips trembled. Ghost doctor, this is okay. What do you mean? Looking at the middle-aged man's nervous expression, Feng Jiu smiled. Your daughter is fine now. You don't have to stay here for too long. Take her back and recuperate for a while. Her body will naturally recover. As for the illness on her body, it's fine now. Chapter 32:19. Of course it's true. Feng Jiu smiled. Just as she was about to speak, a whirlpool suddenly appeared in the air, and she was sucked into the whirlpool that the ghost doctor. When the middle-aged man and the other saw this, they rushed forward and tried to pull her back, but they were repelled by a force. Feng Jiu, who was sucked into the vortex, shouted at them, "It's okay. I'm going to leave here." As soon as she said that, the whirlpool gradually merged and disappeared into the air. Feng Jiu also disappeared, leaving the stunned Chung family members standing there, unable to regain their senses for a long time. After a long while, an old man took a deep breath and said, "Family head, we have met a hidden expert. This ghost doctor's strength is not ordinary. Moreover, the whirlpool teleportation array that appeared in the void is not something that can be opened by ordinary people. Young Miss is really fortunate this time to have met the ghost doctor on this trip. Thinking about it, her illness should not be a problem anymore." Hearing that, the middle-aged man sighed and slowly nodded. That's right, meeting the ghost doctor is indeed our fortune. He turned his head to look at his unconscious daughter and went forward to check on her. Seeing that her breathing was stabilizing, he could not help but feel relieved. Her condition is much better than before, the middle-aged man said as he helped his daughter up. The middle-aged man said as he helped his daughter up. At this moment, the woman who was still unconscious slowly opened her eyes. "Father, you're awake? Are you feeling better?" The middle-aged man asked, looking at her with a face full of concern. "Father, I just had a dream. In the dream, that beautiful red little beast turned into a fairy and came to save me. It even talked to me," the girl said in a daze. Looking at the stunned people around her, she was a little confused. "What's wrong with all of you? I'm telling the truth. I just dreamt of a very beautiful fairy. I don't know why, but I felt that she was very similar to the little beast." Hearing that, everyone looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. That was a fairy with superb medical skills, a fairy called the ghost doctor. How could it be that little red beast? Moreover, they were still able to differentiate between humans and beasts. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Just now, we met a woman called Ghost Doctor. She helped you with acupuncture treatment and even gave you a pill to eat. I just helped you check. Your body's aura is better than before. It seems that your illness is really going to be cured. Also, that ghost doctor is dressed in red, but she's definitely not the little red beast we met half a month ago." He smiled and patted her shoulder. "All right, we should go back. This place is dangerous, and we shouldn't stay here for long. Especially now that your body has recovered, there's no need for you to stay here." Thus, the group of people discussed and left. On the other side, after being sucked into the whirlpool, Feng Jiu returned to the back mountain of Danwang Valley. She turned around and steadied herself. Looking at the old man who was sitting at the side, her eyes flashed slightly. Only then did she walk up to him. "Master, you're back." Dan Wang stroked his beard and looked at her. He asked with a smile, "How have you been in the past 2 weeks?" Chapter 32:20. Ha ha ha. As long as it's interesting. You don't need to thank me. This is what I should do. Dan Wang laughed loudly. He looked at Feng Jiu and said, "Since you're back, don't waste time. Go and refine the beast form pill. There's still a 3-day deadline. If you can't refine the beast form pill in 3 days, then..." He didn't finish his sentence, but his meaning was clear. "Yes, your disciple will not disappoint you." As she spoke, she fixed her gaze on the Pill King. Seeing this, Dan Wang nodded. "All right, then I'll come back in 3 days. I hope you won't disappoint me," he said as he turned around to leave. At this time, he heard Feng Jiu's voice. "Master, wait." Dan Wang stopped and looked back. He raised his white eyebrows and asked, "Is there something else? I don't know how long I'll have to stay here to cultivate. So, I want to find a time to send my subordinates away," she said as she looked at him. "No rush, no rush. Your subordinates are too weak. Just stay here for a while." His voice paused, and a smile appeared on his face. He glanced at Feng Jiu with narrowed eyes and said, "Moreover, in the half a month that you weren't here, Master had people help you train them. Even if you want to see them now, you probably won't be able to. Wait for a while. I'll let you see them after a while. At that time, if you want them to leave first, I'll send them away. You don't need to worry about them. You should worry about yourself first. If you can't refine the beast form pill in 3 days," he smiled and left without saying anything else. Seeing him leave, Feng Jiu looked at the cauldron on the side, and her eyes moved. She didn't refine the pill right away. Instead, she went to prepare the ingredients for the beast form pill. When night fell, she began to refine the beast form pill. When she was in the demonic beast forest, she would repeatedly think about which step was wrong. Why couldn't he refine the beast form pill? With her current strength, 7th-level medicinal pills were not difficult, but it was difficult to obtain. Every type of medicinal pill was refined differently, and everyone's refining method was also different. Especially 7th-level medicinal pills. If there was a mistake in one step, then there would be a mistake in the following steps. And this pill furnace, how was she going to control it? That night, after countless failures, she gradually gained some insight. Thus, on the 3rd day, when the sky gradually brightened and 3 bolts of lightning descended from the sky, she smiled. The 7th rank beast form pill has finally been refined. She watched as the 3 bolts of heavenly lightning struck the pill furnace. Streaks of spiritual power were refined and returned to the pill furnace. When she stepped forward to take out the pills inside, Dan Wang also arrived. I heard the sound of pill lightning from afar. Not bad." Dan Wang slowly walked over with an old man following behind him. As for the other alchemists in Dan Wang's valley, although they heard the sound of pill lightning, they only found out that it was Feng Jiu who refined the pill and didn't ask about it. After all, they had been here for more than half a month. Although my master's behavior is a bit strange, I can't deny that he is indeed very capable. Since I'm already here, I'll stay here to cultivate and improve myself. She paused and said, "When Du Fan and the others come back, I will let them go back first so that they can take care of the residents. Otherwise, I will be worried." Chapter 32:22. She was a little surprised. After eating her fill, she let the little beasts return to the space. Then, she asked the people outside to pack up and leave. Then, she checked the communication jade tablets. Lung Hua's transmission jade tablet only said that everything was fine in the mansion recently, and Mose was also cultivating in seclusion. Howard was also very obedient, and she didn't need to worry. There was also Wan Yin Shursan's communication jade tablet. His voice came from it, saying that he was wandering around and encountered some interesting things. The last one was Wan Yin Qianhua's communication jade tablet. When she heard Wan Yin Qianhua's confused and lonely voice, she couldn't help but be surprised. Swordmaster Xiao Yao? Her sister actually fell in love with Swordmaster Xiao Yao? But Swordmaster Xiao Yao seemed indifferent and even wanted to drive her away. She had only heard of Swordmaster Xiao Yao, and it was only after Wan Yin Qianhua was saved by him that she heard of him. Therefore, when she heard that her sister actually fell in love with Swordmaster Xiao Yao, she was also surprised. It was said that Swordmaster Xiao Yao was already several hundred years old. Although several hundred years didn't mean anything in the world of cultivation, the two had different experiences and especially different statuses. It would be very difficult for them to be together. Moreover, the most important point was that Swordmaster Xiao Yao didn't seem to be moved by her sister. Instead, it was her sister who fell in love with him first. If that was the case, then only her sister would suffer. Thinking of this, she frowned. In the communication jade tablet, her sister asked her what she would do if she was in love with him. However, she was her. Everyone's way of doing things was different. Naturally, they couldn't be compared to each other. Therefore, she only gave her some objective advice. Since she had fallen in love with him, then she should persevere. After all, if Swordmaster Xiao Yao wasn't made of stone, then he would also be moved one day. Moreover, with her sister Wan Yin Qianhua's charm, she didn't believe that there wouldn't be a man who wouldn't be moved. Right now, she wasn't able to deal with the situation here. Her future was also unknown. Therefore, she planned to stay here and learn from her master for a while. Then, she would go to the Xiao Yao sect to see her sister. She also wanted to see the master of the Xiao Yao sword, Junju Shang, who made her sister fall in love with him. That day, she tried her best to relax and rest, adjusting her state of mind. The next morning, she went out at dawn. Not long after she arrived at the back of the mountain, she saw her master. "You're early. It looks like you can't wait to know what kind of pill you're refining this time, right?" Dan Wang stroked his beard and smiled, his smiling eyes falling on Fengjiu. Hearing this, Fengjiu only smiled and asked, "Master, what pill are you refining today?" Dan Wang stroked his beard and glanced at her. "This is the pill recipe. Take it and have a look. You still have 3 days. 3 days later, I'll come back to check on the pill." Seeing him flick his sleeves and walk away, Fengjiu looked at the pill recipe in her hand. She wasn't in a hurry to refine the pill. Instead, she studied it. The more she looked at the pill recipe in her hand, the stranger she felt. Why do I feel like there's something wrong with this pill recipe? These two ingredients are conflicting. How can they be put together? She muttered doubtfully. The more she looked, the more she felt that this pill recipe was more troublesome than the beast form pill. Chapter 32-23. All right. It couldn't be said that he was tidying her up. He was just finding trouble for her. Although she felt that this pill recipe was strange, she still tried to find a way to resolve the conflicting medicinal effects. However, after 3 days, she still couldn't find a way to balance the medicinal effects. Once the 3rd day was up, her master came again. How is it?" He looked at Fengjiu with a smile, as if he was looking for trouble for her. "Master, the medicinal ingredients in this recipe are conflicting. Your disciple has tried for 3 days, but still couldn't find a way. I wonder if Master can explain a thing or two." She looked at him and asked. Dan Wang stroked his beard and looked at her, nodding. "As your master, if you encounter something you don't understand, I naturally have to give you a pointer or two." He walked forward with a smile and said, "The medicinal pill in this pill formula is actually a level 8 medicinal pill. It will be quite difficult for you. Moreover, you haven't refined a level 8 medicinal pill before, right?" Fengjiu shook her head. "No." Then that's right. Among the 8th level pills, many of the spiritual herbs in the recipe have conflicting medicinal properties. If you want to refine them, you have to find a balance between these medicinal properties. Only by resolving the conflicting medicinal properties of the spiritual herbs will you have a 50% chance of refining an 8th level pill. As for the remaining 50%, it will depend on your control of the flame and your familiarity with the spiritual herbs. He came to the table with the spiritual herbs and picked up 2 of the spiritual herbs. "Look at these 2 spiritual herbs. They have conflicting properties. If you want to add them into the medicine, you have to start from these two spiritual herbs. Or think about whether there are other spiritual herbs that can alleviate the conflicting properties of these two spiritual herbs and merge them into one. Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly stunned. Could something like this happen in an 8th level pill recipe? Thinking of this, her expression couldn't help but become serious. If that was the case, then this was really a difficult problem in refining pills. Dan Wang glanced at her and said, "You'll have to figure out the details yourself. If I tell you directly, it won't be the same as if you figure out yourself." He paused for a moment and stared at Fengjiu with a smile. "However, I'm not here to tell you this today." Fengjiu looked at him and asked, "Master, where do you want to send me to train?" She found that this old man especially liked to use the teleportation array to send her to other places to gain experience. She didn't know what was so strange about it. "Ha ha ha, it's good that you know. Master is doing this for your own good." As he spoke, he drew a formation on the ground. When the transportation formation was completed, he looked at her and said meaningfully, "Last time, I sent you to a dangerous place. This time, I'll send you to another place." "Another place?" Fengjiu raised his eyebrows. "Another deep forest?" "Hee, little girl, do you think that there are only a few continents in this world? Do you think that training can only be done in the deep forest?" He stroked his beard and smiled mysteriously. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed. "Master might not know, but I came from the lower realm and have been in many places." Chapter 32-24. Fengjiu was slightly startled. 100 seriously ill people? Is this the punishment for this trial? That's right. Master knows that your medical skills are not bad, so you don't need to treat most of the minor illnesses. You can only choose to treat those who are seriously ill, and these people cannot be unpardonable evildoers, nor can they be people who harm the common people. You can't search for them. You can only meet them and save those who are fated. Once you've treated 100 people, Master will naturally bring you back. Hearing this, Fengjiu's expression could not help but reveal a trace of strangeness. "You're not by my side. How do you know everything about me?" "Hee, you don't need to care about this." With a flick of his sleeve, he pushed her into the array, and at the same time, a talisman formed from spiritual energy was flicked towards her. Following the activation of the array, a light flashed, and Fengjiu also disappeared from the array. When Fengjiu fell out of a black hole, she felt that something was wrong. She tried to stabilize her body, but she still could not stand firm and directly fell to the ground. "Hiss!" She groaned, and when she looked down, she could not help but be startled. "What's going on? It's fine if my strength is suppressed to the foundation establishment stage, but why is this?" Looking down at herself, she was wearing a set of tattered clothes, and not only was her original red clothes gone, even her black hair was messy and scattered, and there was a layer of dark green bark-like thing on her hands, as if there was something growing on her skin. It was very disgusting. Looking down, her gaze fell on her left leg, and her left leg was unexpectedly weak and out of control. After being startled, she stabilized her state of mind and stood up with the help of a big tree beside her. She tried to use both of her legs to step on the ground, and sure enough, her left leg was not under any force. "This old man wants to play me to death, right? How do you make me look like this? What did he do something?" She took a deep breath and was somewhat in disbelief. No wonder he said that it was enough for her to treat 100 people. So he made her look like this. With her current appearance, who would believe that she knew medicine? Who would dare to let her treat them? She checked her pulse and found that there was nothing wrong with her body. However, her left leg was weak and she had to limp when she wanted to walk. She tugged at the clothes on her body, wanted to take them off and change. Who knew that the old clothes on her body couldn't be taken off? This made her clench her teeth. This old man, does he want her to wear these clothes and stay here without bathing for 10 days to half a month? She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Then she walked into the forest and chopped a tree branch to use as a walking stick. She supported herself with it as she limped along the path. The sun above her head wasn't small. Along the way, only the trees on the side of the road could block half of the sunlight. After walking for a while, she took out some water from her space and drank a few mouthfuls before continuing to walk forward, until she came to a town in front of her. Just as she was about to limp into the town, she was stopped by the guards. Where did this beggar come from? Walk, walk, walk. Beggars can't enter the city. Leave quickly. Chapter 32:25. Hiss. Her left leg was weak, and the other party was a mystic, so the force was not light. Caught off guard, she was pushed to the ground. Her palms scratched the sand on the ground, and a trace of blood seeped out. Go, go, go. Hurry up and leave. The city guard shouted sternly, almost going forward to kick her. Fengjiu stood up with the help of her walking stick. She glanced at the two city guards and said, "I'm not a beggar." The city guard sized up the person in front of him. He was wearing tattered clothes and was using a tree branch as a walking stick. His face was covered in soot and he couldn't see clearly. Coupled with his messy hair, he looked like a beggar no matter how he looked at him. Hurry up and leave. The city guard waved his hand to chase her away, refusing to let her in. When Fengjiu saw this, she took out a badge from her space. Look carefully. I'm a doctor, not a beggar. Seeing the badge, the two city guards were stunned. You're a doctor? They sized up Fengjiu in disbelief. You didn't steal this badge, did you? The corner of Fengjiu's mouth twitched. She glanced at the two and said, Is a doctor's badge so easy to steal? Why don't you steal one for me to see? Seeing this, the two city guards looked at each other, walked to the side, and muttered a few words. Finally, they gestured. Go in. But with your current state, you probably won't have a place to stay even if you go in. As the two city guards spoke, they ignored Fengjiu and walked back to the city gate to stand guard, watching the people entering and leaving. Fengjiu put away the badge and limped inside. When she looked inside, she saw that most of the people inside were mystic. There were no spirit cultivators. She walked to a small stall. Before she could get close, she saw someone reaching out to push her. This time, she dodged to the side and looked at the person. What are you doing? Fengjiu looked at the man and frowned. You beggar, who allowed you to enter the city? Why are you approaching my stall? Are you trying to hinder my business? Go, go, go. Get out of here. Why don't you take a look at yourself first? Fengjiu glanced at the man indifferently. He didn't waste his breath on him and continued walking forward. However, regardless of whether she approached the stalls or the inns, she was chased away before she could even get close. She had been wandering around here for the whole day. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, she still hadn't found a place to stay. She thought for a moment. Since she couldn't find a place to stay, she would probably have to sleep outside tonight. However, just as she was about to leave, she saw an old woman being chased out of a pharmacy. Due to the force of the push, the old woman fell to the ground. The skin on her head was broken and blood seeped out. However, she did not pay attention to the injury on her forehead. Instead, she crawled up and cried as she begged. Dr. Liu, please come with me to see my son. He really can't hold on any longer. I beg you, I beg you. The old woman kowtowed as she cried and begged. However, there were many people around, but they only discussed and watched coldly. The people in the medicine shop didn't even show their faces. Obviously, they didn't want to bother. Chapter 32:26. Fengjiu stood not far away and watched, listening to the discussions of the people around. She watched the old woman beg bitterly, but the people in the medicine shop remained indifferent. She watched as the sky gradually darkened and the surrounding people dispersed, leaving only the old woman crying and begging. At this time, she supported herself with her walking stick and walked forward. What illness does your son have? Fengjiu asked, looking at the sorrowful and desperate old woman. When the old woman heard the voice, she raised her head and saw a person who looked like a beggar. She wiped her tears. Her voice was hoarse and weak, and her eyes were filled with despair and death. I don't know what illness it is. Even the doctors can't find it. No one is willing to save him. No one is willing to help us. At this moment, she was already thinking that if her son died, she would die with him. Anyway, if her family died, there was no point for an old woman like her to live. I can save him. Take me to see him, Feng said, reaching out to help the old woman up. Perhaps it was because she had reached the point of despair. Hearing this, the old woman's eyes lit up. You can save my son? Are you a doctor? No, no, you must be an immortal with great ability. You must be a hidden immortal. As if to comfort herself, as if to give herself a last bit of hope, she did not doubt Feng's identity and ability. On the contrary, she saw her as a hidden doctor, an immortal who could save her son. Just like this, she brought Fengjiu home. After Fengjiu left with the old woman, a middle-aged man walked out of the medicine shop, shook his head, looked in the direction they left, and sighed. Who can save someone who is about to die? The waiter in the shop also walked out, looked at the people in the distance, and said with a smile, Dr. Liu, that beggar actually said that she can save him. She probably wants a place to stay. Who in this city doesn't know that Dr. Liu's medical skills are the best? Even you can't save someone. How can a beggar save him? On the other side, Fengjiu followed the old woman home. She saw that it was a simple courtyard with many things piled up in the courtyard. There were a few rooms in the courtyard, and the old woman brought her into one of the rooms to the person lying on the bed. He is my son. Immortal. Quickly take a look at my son. You must save my son. He is a filial child. If he dies, I have no reason to live. The old woman cried, her voice sorrowful and helpless. It was the despair of an old mother. The despair of asking for help made her want to die. Fengjiu comforted her. Don't worry, I'll take a look at him first. Help me bring a basin of water over here. Okay, the old woman replied, wiping her tears shed, and walked out of the room. Fengjiu first glanced at the person on the bed and saw that it was a man in his 30s with a strong physique. However, he was now so thin that he didn't even look human. Moreover, he was unconscious and his breathing was extremely weak. After feeling his pulse, she was slightly surprised and withdrew her hand. The old woman also came in with the basin of water, so she washed her hand in the water and asked, Did he become like this after he went out on a mission? Chapter 32:27. They sent him back and didn't come back after leaving behind some money. I've looked everywhere for medical help, but they all said there was no way. The woman cried and looked at Fengjiu. Immortal, you have a way to save my son, right? You must have a way, right? Fengjiu glanced at her and nodded. Don't worry, your son won't die. Hearing this, the old woman cried with joy. I knew it. I knew my son wouldn't die. I knew it. He probably has wounds on his body that haven't been treated properly. Help me take off his clothes and check. Fengjiu gestured as he retreated to the side. Okay. As the old woman spoke, she stepped forward to help. Not long after, her son's clothes were taken off, leaving only his underwear. Fengjiu stepped forward to take a look. Her gaze fell on the man's abdomen, where a red line of blood extended upwards towards his heart. She had the old woman turn her son over. After checking, she finally found a wound at the back of his waist. The wound was only a red dot the size of a toothpick. It wasn't torn, and there were no other marks. If one didn't look closely, they would think it was just a red mole. Turn him over and let him lie on his stomach. Fengjiu gestured. As he taught the old woman what to do, he took out silver needles and laid them out beside the bed. Seeing those silver needles, the old woman's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, she was nervous and worried. Those long silver needles were going to pierce into her son's body. If they pierced into the wrong place, would it? Thinking of this, she was about to speak when she saw that one of the silver needles had already pierced into her son. She could only suppress her anxiety. She didn't expect to hear the immortal's words at this moment. He was stung by a poisonous flower. First, he fell into a coma. Then, his body heated up. Then, his breathing became chaotic, occasionally accompanied by convulsions. This situation has already been like this for 2 to 3 months, right? He's already in the late stage. If he hadn't met me today, your son probably wouldn't have lived for more than 3 days. Fengjiu's voice drifted out. Hearing this, the old woman was stunned. Her eyes filled with joy. She didn't tell the immortal about this, but he actually knew. It seemed that her son could really be saved. As time passed, Feng Jiu finished performing acupuncture on the man on the bed. He put away the silver needles and took out a pill from the space and stuffed it into the man's mouth. He also poured some spirit liquid into the man's mouth. After cleaning his hands, he walked to the side and sat down. Immortal, how's my son? The old woman watched the entire process. Perhaps it was because she saw the scene of Feng Jiu saving her son, so her originally lifeless eyes had now regained their former vitality. Even her entire person looked much more energetic. "You should be fine after a few more acupuncture treatments," said Wang Yao. Hearing this, the old woman beamed with joy. That's great. Immortal, please sit down and rest for a while, or you can rest in the room next door. I'll go cook now. I must thank you properly, Immortal. Thank you for saving my son." Chapter 32:28. The old woman was very grateful. Although the family did not have much money left because of the medical treatment, she still caught an old hen from her backyard and made a stew. She also cooked a few dishes for Feng Jiu. Feng Jiu used this time to clean herself up in the next room. At least, even if she could not change the others, she had to clean herself up. "Immortal, it's time to eat." The old woman placed the dishes on the table and called out to Feng Jiu. Coming. Not long after, Feng Jiu pushed open the door and walked out. Although she was still wearing the same tattered clothes and was still limping, her ink-black hair had been tied up, and her beautiful face was revealed after she had washed up. Seeing Feng Jiu's face, the old woman was even more convinced that she was an immortal who had come to save her son. If it was an ordinary person, how could they have such a beautiful face? Feng Jiu held her walking stick and sat down at the table. She said to the old woman, "No need to call me immortal, just call me Ghost Doctor." Yes. The old woman replied and gave her more food. Feng Jiu saw that there was only one bowl and said, "Elder, sit down and eat with me." Sit down and eat with me. I still have some things to discuss with you." "All right," the old woman replied. She first went to the kitchen to get a bowl and a pair of chopsticks and sat down to eat. Feng Jiu briefly explained her son's situation to the old woman at the table. When they finished eating, she put down the bowl and chopsticks and said, "At most tomorrow morning. He will wake up tomorrow morning, but his body will need some time to slowly recover." Hearing Feng Jiu's words, the old woman thanked Feng Jiu gratefully. After all, a person who had been said by many doctors to have no chance of surviving was now said to wake up tomorrow and recover after a period of rest. How could she not be excited? That was her son. Her son had finally overcome this calamity. This was great. "Elder, what is this place? Why is it that most of the people in the city are mystic cultivators and not a single spirit cultivator?" Feng Jiu asked the question in his heart, and his gaze landed on the old woman. Hearing this, the old woman seemed a little strange. "Ghost Doctor, where is this place?" She looked at Feng Jiu and saw that she shook her head. Her expression did not seem to be fake. She then said, "Ghost Doctor must be an expert in seclusion. That's why you don't know. We're in the Black Tortoise Continent, one of the divisions of the upper realm. Other than the mortals who can't cultivate, there are some mystics who can cultivate Black Tortoise techniques. As for the spirit cultivators that Ghost Doctor mentioned, this old lady only knows that in those big cities, those spiritual medicine masters are spirit cultivators. I've never heard of anything else." As the old lady spoke, she looked at Feng Jiu and said, "I think the Ghost Doctor should also be a spirit apothecary, right? Only a spirit alchemist can possess such miraculous and powerful healing abilities. My son is truly fortunate to have met a spirit alchemist like the Ghost Doctor." Feng Jiu smiled, but he was surprised. One of the divisions of the upper realm? In other words, this place was still the upper realm, but in a different area? Sure enough, the upper realm was vast and beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The old man was really capable. He actually sent her here with a teleportation array. It was indeed not simple. Chapter 32:29. Ghost Doctor, my son is awake, he's awake." The old woman's voice sounded in the courtyard in surprise. Feng Jiu, who was in the room, also came out after washing up. "I'll go and have a look." As she spoke, she limped toward the room next door. The man on the bed had already woken up. Seeing Fengjiu come in, he struggled to get up, but Fengjiu gestured for him to lie down. "Your body is still weak, lie down," Fengjiu said as she sat down on the chair beside the bed. When a man on the bed saw Fengjiu's face, he was a little surprised, as if he didn't expect such a young woman. Moreover, this woman had a peerless beauty, but she was wearing shabby clothes and was limping. It was really strange. I heard from my mother that it was the ghost doctor who saved me. Yuan, will first thank the ghost doctor for saving my life. When my body recovers, I will definitely repay you," he said as he lay on the bed. Because his body was still weak, his words were weak. Fengjiu nodded. "Since you're awake, I'll give you another acupuncture treatment. After today, I'll give you another acupuncture treatment tomorrow. You'll only need to recuperate. I'll have to trouble the ghost doctor," Yuan said as he saw his mother step forward and take off his clothes. In front of such a young woman, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed, but when he saw that the ghost doctor's expression was the same as before, there was no change in her expression, he gradually relaxed. Because her son's condition had improved, the old woman was finally relieved. After busying herself with the matters at home, she took a basket of vegetables and went out to buy groceries. She bought a big basket of fish and meat, as well as a few fruits. Some of the people in the city who were familiar with her were a little surprised. "Auntie you seem to be in a good mood today? Is your family's Anne's condition better?" a man asked. Looking at the old woman's smiling face, he was very surprised. During this period of time, he saw her frowning and her eyes red. It was rare to see her smile, so why was it that today? "That's right, my family's met a benefactor. He's fine now." The old woman chuckled and said, "I bought a lot of things to nourish my Yuan's body." Seeing the old woman leave with light footsteps, many people began to talk behind her. Once the news spread, Dr. Liu of the medicine shop also heard about it. This was because some people were saying that Dr. Liu's medical skills were not good enough and that the person that he could not save had been saved by someone else. Therefore, when Dr. Liu heard the news, he was also surprised and personally went to Anne's house to see what was going on. When he arrived, the old woman was preparing lunch, and Fengjiu was in the room, studying her suddenly powerless left leg. To his surprise, he discovered that there was a red mark of a talisman on her left leg. Did this old man use a talisman? She was astonished. She took out a book about talismans and started to read it. In her space, there were many books about this kind of thing. In the past, she had even learned the talisman clone technique. However, she didn't expect that her cheat master would also know the talisman clone technique. Moreover, he had used the talisman clone technique on her when she wasn't paying attention. As she flipped through the rune books in her room, she could faintly hear voices coming from outside at Auntie Yu. "I heard that Yuan's illness has improved. Is this true?" Dr. Liu asked as soon as he entered the room. Chapter 32:30. After entering and seeing Yuan, Dr. Liu's heart was filled with shock. A person who was originally determined to die was now gradually recovering his vitality. This was too inconceivable. Outside the door, Dr. Liu pulled the old woman to the side and asked, "Which expert cured Yuan? Is she still here?" He looked around the courtyard, and finally his gaze fell on the tightly shut door of a room. The old woman hesitated and said, "Yes, she is. She's called the ghost doctor and is still living at home. I want to see this expert. Auntie Yu, please go and tell her," Dr. Liu said as his eyes stared at the closed room. The old woman hesitated for a moment before saying, "Then, Dr. Liu, please wait a moment. I will go and ask." After all, they were in the same city, and she often had to ask him for help. Coupled with his connections in the city, she couldn't refuse directly. "Ghost doctor, can I come in?" She knocked on the door and called out. "Come in," Fengjiu said from inside the room and put away the book in his hand. The door opened, and the old woman walked in and closed the door. "Ghost doctor, Dr. Liu is here. He is the doctor from the pharmacy. He can be considered a reputable person in this city. Since he came personally today, I can't drive him out." The old woman said softly and looked at Fengjiu. "He said he wants to see you." I wondered, hearing this. Fengjiu said lightly, "Let him go back. I won't see him. Okay. The old woman responded and went outside. Closing the door, she said to Dr. Liu, who was waiting in the courtyard. The ghost doctor said she won't see him. Dr. Liu, you see. Okay. Dr. Liu didn't insist and said, Yuan's body is indeed getting better. Since that's the case, I will go back first. After saying that, he turned and left. After leaving the door, he looked back at the small courtyard and his eyes flashed slightly. Ghost doctor? A doctor with good medical skills? The other party's skills were above his. No wonder he didn't want to see him. However, the more it was like this, the more curious he was about what kind of person this person was. Feng Jiu did not take Dr. Liu seriously. Therefore, after he left, she continued to read the book. She planned to break the talisman on her left leg first. However, at the same time, she asked the old woman to help her inquire about something. That was to find out if there was anyone in the city who was seriously ill and what kind of character the ill spoke and behaved. This was not a difficult task for the old lady. After all, when she went out to buy groceries, she would chat with some acquaintances and talk about what was new in the city, as well as some gossip. When the old lady saw that it was Feng Jiu's order, she tried her best to inquire about it. After all, he had saved her son without charging a single cent. Therefore, after she helped Yuan with the third acupuncture, she heard the old woman mention that there was someone seriously ill in the city and that it was a good family. She made up her mind to go and take a look. However, when he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel that the tables had turned. In the past, it was always people who came to her for medical treatment. Now, she was the one who went to look for someone. It was really unexpected. Now that Yuan is fine, it's time for me to leave. After Feng Jiu bid farewell to the old woman, she left behind some money for her. You can keep this money. It can help you in recover. Chapter 32-31. It's all right. I've disturbed you for the past few days. Moreover, I know that you don't have much money on hand. Yuan's body is still weak, so there are many places where he needs money. Just accept this. Take it as a reward for helping me gather information for the past 2 days. Feng Jiu smiled and stuffed the money into the old woman's hands. After staying here for 3 days, the old woman had killed 3 old hens in the backyard. This bit of money was nothing to her, but it could help her and her son. Holding the purse in her hand, the old woman's eyes couldn't help but redden. She looked at Feng Jiu and asked, Ghost Doctor, are you going to the Qin family? I heard that second young Master Qin's illness was treated by doctors from other places, but it was useless. Moreover, the Qin family is very powerful. Although they are a benevolent family, if something happens, I'm afraid that they won't let it go easily. Yes, I know. She smiled and nodded. I'll leave first, don't worry. I have my own plans. After bidding farewell to the Yu family, Feng Jiu supported herself with her crutches and left. She asked around for the Qin family's location and walked along the road. However, after walking for a while, she heard incessant cries and screams in front of her. She couldn't help but pull one of them and ask, What's going on in front? A man turned around and saw that it was a beautiful woman. His expression softened, and he glanced strangely at her nondescript appearance and the crutches in her hand. He said, It seems that a pregnant woman in front was bumped into by someone. The situation is not good. Hearing this, Feng Jiu frowned slightly and walked forward. When she came to the front, she saw that the woman had been carried to the clinic in front. She thought about it and followed. Seeing the woman's complexion and her belly that was so big that it looked like she was about to give birth, the situation was probably not good. Since she ran into it, she should follow and take a look. Therefore, she followed him to the clinic and watched from the outside with the other onlookers. After about half an incense stick's time, she vaguely heard someone inside saying, Only one adult and one child can be saved. Hurry up and make a decision. Otherwise, neither of them will survive. At this time, he heard a few voices arguing. A man was shouting to save the children, and a woman was saying that she wanted to save the mother. It seemed that they were arguing inside. Look, this is the difference between the in-laws family and the maternal family. The maternal family wants to protect the mother. After all, the child can be reborn in the future. The in-laws family, on the other hand, wants to protect the younger ones. They can't bear to see their unborn offspring die. Then the man who said he would save the child is the woman's husband. That's right. He hugged his mistress in broad daylight and met his wife. He even let his mistress push his wife down. Now, he even said that he wanted to save the little one and abandon the big one. This man is too ruthless. That's normal. If the main wife was gone, wouldn't that benefit the mistress? What more, men are all like this. They like the new and hate the old. What's so surprising about that? That's right. Didn't you see? The mistress is as beautiful as a fairy. Her willowy waist is so small that it can't be held in one hand. Compared to the main wife, her body is swollen and pregnant. Her waist is more than one circle round. How can they be compared? Chapter 32:32. When Fengjiu heard this, she saw that the argument was still going on inside, so she walked forward. Hey, who are you? What are you doing here? Can't you see that we're busy here? Someone stopped Fengjiu and said, trying to push her away. Fengjiu raised a branch and knocked that person's hand away. She looked inside and said, I can save both the adult and the child. When these words came out, the people who were arguing inside couldn't help but fall silent and look at her in unison. Especially the man. When he saw her, his eyes were filled with amazement. When the stout woman saw this, she hurriedly went forward. What did you say? You can save both the adult and the child? That's right, I'm a doctor. Fengjiu said and nodded slightly. Quick, as long as you can save both the child and the adult, I'll definitely thank you. Thank you very much. As the stout woman said this, she didn't mind that Fengjiu's clothes were tattered and brought her inside. Dr. Liu, this young lady said that she can save my daughter and the child. The woman said to a middle-aged man inside. This middle-aged man was Dr. Liu. When he heard this, he turned around and his eyes flashed. The ghost doctor? When he went back, he had people ask around and found out that a person who used a branch as a walking stick and wore tattered clothes like a beggar had followed you, Anne's mother, home. The person in front of him seemed to be that person. Fengjiu glanced at Dr. Liu and calmly replied. Anne, hearing this, Dr. Liu's eyes lit up. I heard that the ghost doctor's medical skills are high, but I didn't think that she would be so young. Since the ghost doctor said that she has confidence, then she must have confidence. As he spoke, he said to the woman and man, You've met a benefactor today. If the ghost doctor can help, both the adult and the child should be saved. Although he had never seen her treat someone, he was the one who treated Yuan, so he naturally knew the situation. To be able to save someone who was on the brink of death and dare to call herself the ghost doctor, it could be seen that her medical skills were extraordinary. Therefore, it could be said that when she said that she could save him, he did not have the slightest doubt. Hearing this, the woman couldn't help but be overjoyed. Then I'll have to ask the ghost doctor to quickly save him. I'll repay your kindness later. The rest of you can leave first. This madam will stay. She asked the others to leave and let the stout woman stay. Ghost doctor, I wonder if I can stay and help? Actually, he wanted to see with his own eyes how the ghost doctor saved people. I'm afraid it's inconvenient. Fengjiu said faintly as his gaze fell on Dr. Liu. Dr. Liu, you can leave first. My daughter and grandson can't wait any longer, the woman said as she urged him to leave. After all, she was worried that it would affect her daughter if he delayed any longer. Seeing this, Dr. Liu turned around and walked out. In the medicine hall's cubicle, one could faintly hear the sound of people walking around and shouting for hot water. Other than the stout woman, no one outside knew what was going on inside. They only knew that as time passed, cries of pain came from inside. About an hour later, a baby was born. The cries of the baby shook the hearts of the people outside. The man couldn't help but rush in. When Dr. Liu saw this, he followed in. Chapter 32:33. The child was born less than a month ago, so his body needs to be nursed back to health. As for this madam, she also needs to recuperate. She carried the child to the stout woman and said, There isn't anything major right now. Dr. Liu, please take care of the rest. With that, she retreated to the side, and the stout woman and man squeezed forward to see the child and daughter. Thus, no one noticed Fengjiu's departure. When they came back to their senses and wanted to thank Fengjiu again, they saw that the person who was standing at the side just now had disappeared. Dr. Liu, how is my daughter? The woman handed her grandson to the son-in-law who had squeezed forward and hurriedly asked Dr. Liu. After taking her pulse, Dr. Liu withdrew his hand and took a deep breath, saying, "She is indeed fine." This was already the second time. He had no way of dealing with Yuan, but he was saved by the ghost doctor. Now it was the same here. This woman's breathing was clearly very weak, and she had no strength to give birth to the child. But in the end, she still gave birth to the child and saved her life. He couldn't help but admire the other party's medical skills. On the other side, Fengjiu, who had left, walked along the road and arrived in front of the Qin family's door. Looking at the large residence in front of her and the two stone lions squatting in front of the door, she thought for a moment before walking up and knocking on the door. "Who are you looking for?" The door opened a small crack, and she was surprised to see the person outside. The person outside was dressed in tattered clothes and held a walking stick in her hand, but she had an extremely beautiful face. "I'm looking for your family head." As she spoke, she took out a badge and handed it over. "Just show this to your family head." When the gatekeeper took the badge, his hand couldn't help but tremble. He didn't have time to say anything else and hurriedly ran inside. At this moment, the atmosphere in the Qin family was gloomy and stifling. Although the Qin family was a large family in the city, the family had only married one wife. Moreover, the couple were very loving and had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Now that the 2 sons were seriously ill and helpless, the entire Qin family was shrouded in a sorrowful atmosphere. "Family head, family head." The gatekeeper's voice hurriedly came from outside, causing the housekeeper waiting in the courtyard to shout, "How rude! Don't you know where this is? How can you make a fuss? Butler, butler, look at this." After all, the gatekeeper was relatively young. He was so excited that he lost his sense of propriety. At this time, after being yelled at by the butler, he hurriedly handed over the badge. The butler took a look at it and couldn't help but be shocked. "Hiss, where did this come from?" This was actually the badge of an alchemy saint. Not to mention that there was no alchemy saint in their city, it was extremely difficult to find an alchemy saint in other large cities. There was a strange woman outside the door. She was extremely beautiful, but she was wearing tattered clothes. She walked with a limp and held a tree branch in her hand as a crutch. After she knocked on the door, she handed this to me and said that she wanted to see the family head. The gatekeeper said excitedly, "Housekeeper, is this medicine saint very powerful? Can it save second young master?" Holding the badge, the housekeeper couldn't help but shake his hands. He quickly said, "Hurry up, invite him to the front hall, and serve him well. I'll immediately go in and inform the patriarch." "Yes." The gatekeeper hurriedly went to the door and invited them in. Chapter 32-34. Hearing the steward's words and looking at the badge, Patriarch Qin's eyes shone with pleasant surprise. "Medicine saint? We have a medicine saint in our city? That's great. That's great. Madam, hunger can be saved." Hearing this, the weeping woman was startled. "Medicine saint? Where is the medicine saint?" Seeing this, the other man and girl in the room also came forward. "Madam, look." Patriarch Qin handed over the badge. "This is the medicine saint badge. You guys stay here and take care of hunger. I'll go ahead and take a look." Saying this, he immediately strode out. At this time, Fengjiu was sitting in the front hall and drinking tea. A maidservant was waiting on her, and the maidservant would steal glances at her from time to time. After a while, when a middle-aged man walked in quickly, she also looked at him and sized him up. At the same time, Patriarch Qin was also sizing up the person sitting in the hall. When he first saw her, he was very surprised. Although he heard from the steward that she was a beautiful young woman, he was slightly startled when he saw her tattered clothes. Now that he looked at her again, he felt even more strange. Although she was wearing tattered clothes, her temperament was extraordinary, especially the other party's eyes, which were cold and had an intimidating light. He immediately collected his thoughts and strode forward, cupping his hands in greeting. I didn't know that the medicine saint was coming. I didn't come out to greet you. I hope you won't blame me. Patriarch Qin. Fengjiu nodded slightly. She didn't stand up, but sat and looked at him. At this time, Patriarch Qin came forward with the badge in both hands. Medicine Saint, I'll return this badge. Fengjiu took the badge and put it away, saying, I came this time because I heard that the Qin family is a kind family. I also heard that second young master Qin is seriously ill, so I came to take a look. Hearing this, Patriarch Qin was overjoyed. Thank you, Medicine Saint. Thank you, Medicine Saint. Call me Ghost Doctor, Fengjiu said. She took a sip of tea and stood up. Take me to see second young master. Yes, this way please, Ghost Doctor. He personally led the way, bringing her to the backyard. Arriving at the rear courtyard and entering the side room, Patriarch Qin hurriedly introduced to Fengjiu. This is my wife, this is my eldest son, and this is my youngest daughter. Come, quickly greet the Ghost Doctor. Greetings, Ghost Doctor. The three of them couldn't help but feel strange when they saw that the person who came was so young and beautiful, but her clothes were tattered. Fengjiu nodded slightly and walked forward. He came to the side of the bed and examined the man on the bed. The man on the bed was unconscious. His face was pale and bloodless, and his eyes were sunken in. His breathing was weak, as if he would die at any moment. After the examination, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows slightly and withdrew his hand in surprise. He looked at the man on the bed and said to the people beside the bed, Second young master is not sick. Hearing this, the Qin family members were stunned, especially Mrs. Qin, who couldn't help but say, Not sick? How could he not be sick when he was already so sick? Did the Ghost Doctor make a mistake? Madam, don't be rude. Patriarch Qin was shocked and hurriedly stopped her. He said to Fengjiu, My wife was too worried and offended you with her words. Please don't take offense, Ghost Doctor. The dignified medicine saint wasn't someone who could be questioned by just anyone. Moreover, she only said that he wasn't sick and didn't say anything else. Chapter 32-35. Hearing this, Qin family head took a deep breath and said, Ghost Doctor, please explain. If he isn't sick, then what is the cause of this situation? Fengjiu looked at them and said, An evil spirit is close to the body, and it is caused by an external evil spirit entering the body. Second young master is born with meridians, and it is easy for him to attract evil spirits. Looking at his situation, he has been ill for at least 1 or 2 months. Now that he is at the final stage, if the evil spirit succeeds, second young master won't be able to live. She continued, However, if this situation was seen by any doctor, they would say that he is seriously ill. However, no matter what medicine they use, it is very difficult to treat the illness. Then what do we do? The woman was stunned. Looking at her son on the bed, she rushed forward and was about to kneel in front of Fengjiu. Ghost Doctor, I beg you, please save my son. I beg of you. Fengjiu helped her up and said, Madam, there is no need to be anxious. I am here today to save him. Ghost Doctor, is there anything we can do? Qin family head asked. He only knew that his second son had been weak and sickly since he was young, but he didn't know that he was born with meridians. Born with meridians? So many people couldn't find out, but the Ghost Doctor in front of him knew. He really didn't know where she came from. Why did she come to his Qin family to save him? It is said that the higher the rank of a doctor and alchemist, the harder it is to invite them. You are so powerful. Why did you come to my house? The young girl at the side asked the question in her heart. Her eyes were also fixed on the beautiful woman. Don't speak nonsense, Qin family head shouted, but he also wanted to know why. Why did she come to his house? Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. It is normal for you to find it strange. After all, I usually don't come to your house to treat people. However, in the end, my master asked me to come out and gain experience. He asked me to treat 100 seriously ill people, and the people I treat must not be evil people. Therefore, after asking around, I came to your house. She smiled and looked at the young girl, asking, Am I clear enough? What else do you want to ask? You can ask all at once. The young girl's face turned red, and she looked at her with some embarrassment. After thinking, she asked, "Why are you wearing these clothes? Don't all girls like pretty clothes?" Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. "This is a treasure robe. Before I cure 100 people, this robe cannot be taken off." She paused for a moment, smiled, and continued. "Perhaps my master thought that I was beautiful, so he purposely made me look like this to send me down the mountain." Seeing Fengjiu speak in a relaxed manner and smile, the Qin clan could not help but feel relieved. They felt that although she was a respected saint of medicine, her personality was extremely good, so they did not feel so restrained. "Let's get down to business," Fengjiu said with a serious expression. "What we need to do now is to force the evil Yin Qi out of his body. I'll give you a prescription. Quickly get the herbs and boil them into a medicinal bath for him to soak in." Hearing this, the man beside her hurriedly brought over a brush, ink, and paper and placed them on the table. After Feng Nine sat down, she wrote down the prescription with one hand. Looking at the words, and then at the calm and composed woman, his eyes flashed slightly. "I'll go get the herbs," the man said, and quickly left with the prescription. Chapter 32-36. The fire burned under the tub, and the heat rose up. The water in the tub was so hot that it was smoking. As soon as the man was placed in, his originally pale body was scalded red. Because Patriarch Qin ordered everyone to leave, only Patriarch Qin, his eldest son, the housekeeper, and 2 servants were left in the courtyard. Looking at his son who was scalded red in the tub, Patriarch Qin's heart was in his throat. If it was an ordinary wooden tub, it would have been destroyed by the fire below. However, this tub was not made of ordinary wood, and the fire below was not burning brightly. Instead, it was half-baked from a distance. Fengjiu watched from the side. After a while, he stepped on a chair and walked to the side of the tub. He helped the second young master who was sitting in the tub remove the evil Yin energy from his body. After the acupuncture, the medicinal bath lasted for about 4 hours. When Fengjiu ordered people to carry the person in the tub back to his room, Patriarch Qin hurriedly ordered the servants to carry him back to his room, as if he was afraid that his son would be cooked. Fengjiu entered the room and checked again. After taking out a pill and stuffing it into his son's mouth, he asked, "Patriarch Qin, does her family have any ancient jade?" "Ancient jade?" Patriarch Qin was startled. After thinking for a while, he said, "My family's ancestors did leave behind some jade pendants, but I don't know if they can be considered ancient jade." He paused and said, "How about this? I'll go get them for the ghost doctor to take a look." He thought that the ghost doctor wanted them. In any case, she was treating his son. If she wanted ancient jade, he could find some for her. Thus, after seeing that his son's blood and qi seemed to be better than before, he hurriedly went back to get those jade pendants and other things. In the room, only the eldest young master and Fengjiu were left. The eldest young master looked at Fengjiu, asking, "Ghost doctor, after doing this, will my second brother's body not be invaded by the evil Yin energy in the future?" Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. "No, this is only to help him expel the evil Yin energy in his body. As for whether or not he will be invaded by the evil Yin energy in the future, it will depend on whether or not your father can bring back useful ancient jade." "Why is that?" He was a little surprised. He had thought that the ancient jade was what she wanted, but now it seemed that it was not the case. Some ancient jades have the effect of repelling evil spirits. Moreover, they can prevent evil spirits from getting close to them. It has the effect of protecting the body. Fengjiu explained as he picked up his walking stick and limped to the table. He poured himself a cup of tea and drank it. Not long after, Patriarch Qin came back with a tray. There were many jade pendants and other things on it. He placed it in front of Fengjiu and said, "Ghost doctor, please take a look. Is there anything you like?" Hearing this, Fengjiu was startled. He knew that Qin Fengjiu had misunderstood. He smiled and said, "Qin Fengjiu, this ancient jade is not for me. It's for second young master." She gave him a simple explanation. Seeing his enlightened and apologetic expression, she smiled. "It's just that, although these jades are quite old, they're still not good enough. Truly good jades are warm in the winter and cool in the summer. There are also warm jades that emit warmth all year round. There are also ancient jades that are extremely spiritual. These things of yours are not suitable. They are useless. She shook her head and pushed the tray to the side. Chapter 32-37. Hearing this, Fengjiu paused and pondered. This Qin clan's second young master's meridians really couldn't be suppressed by ordinary ancient jade. There wasn't even a single spirit cultivator in this place, let alone an ancient jade with spirituality. Was she expecting too much from them? Ghost Doctor? Ghost Doctor? Patriarch Qin called out to her. Seeing that she seemed to be distracted, he couldn't help but ask worriedly, Ghost Doctor, what if we don't have the ancient jade? Fengjiu came back to her senses and looked at the anxious Patriarch Qin, saying, I do have a piece here. She took out an ancient jade from her space. Most of the treasures in her space were obtained from others, but there weren't many pieces of ancient jade that could ward off evil spirits. However, seeing that they really couldn't take out a piece of ancient jade that could be used, she thought for a moment and erased her traces of the ancient jade before handing it over to Patriarch Qin. String this jade up and let him wear it around his neck. The piece she handed over was a round 8 trigrams jade. This was the most suitable piece of jade for the Qin clan's second young master out of all the jade she had. If she hadn't heard that the Qin clan's people were all upright people, she wouldn't have taken out such a piece of jade. Receiving the jade from Fengjiu, Patriarch Qin was shocked. He could feel the warmth of the 8 trigrams jade in his hand. Moreover, there was a spiritual aura coming from the jade. It was obviously not an ordinary jade. This Ghost Doctor, this jade. He wanted to say that this jade was too precious and they didn't dare to accept it, but he couldn't say it. If he didn't accept this jade, what would happen to his son? Finally, he took the jade and solemnly bowed to Fengjiu. 1,000 words aren't enough to express my gratitude at this moment. Ghost Doctor, thank you. Fengjiu waved her hand and didn't say anything else. He had someone string the jade up and put it around second young Master Qin's neck. Then, he looked at Fengjiu and asked, Ghost Doctor, is this okay? Fengjiu replied, set up a soft bed here. I'll rest here tonight. This Patriarch Qin was a little hesitant. He glanced at his eldest son and said to Fengjiu, Ghost Doctor, I've already ordered people to prepare a room for you. Ghost Doctor is our Qin clan's great benefactor. How can you rest on a soft bed? Fengjiu smiled. Whether or not second young master can get through this ordeal depends on tonight. I'll be here to guard him. If Patriarch Qin feels apologetic, you can send someone to prepare some food for me. Hearing this, the eldest young master of the Qin family immediately said, Since that's the case, I'll get the kitchen to prepare. The Ghost Doctor can rest here for the time being. Saying this, he bowed and left first. Everyone in the room retreated, leaving only a soft bed for Fengjiu to rest on. While she was resting, the people in the kitchen prepared a sumptuous meal to entertain Fengjiu. At the same time, because of the words of some elders in the clan, Patriarch Qin secretly sent people to the city to inquire about Fengjiu's origins. At the same time, because he received her ancient jade, he was discussing with some elders in the clan to compensate her with something. Chapter 32-38. Are you talking about medicine or something like that? Patriarch Qin looked at one of the elders and hesitated before saying, I'm afraid that we can't take out any rare medicine. I think that the Ghost Doctor isn't an ordinary person. I'm afraid that she won't be interested in our things. In my opinion, it's more convenient to give crystal stones. One of the elders said and looked at the others, What do you all think? That's a good idea, but isn't this too direct? How can it be? No matter where it is, money and crystal stones are the most common. I think it's best to give this. Thus, the few of them discussed and finally decided to prepare some crystal stones for Fengjiu. Firstly, it could be used to pay for the treatment, and secondly, it could be used as a return gift. In a room in the backyard, the kitchen staff sent the dishes to Fengjiu's courtyard. When Fengjiu, who was originally resting in a room, heard the noise outside, she came out of her room and sat down at the stone table in the courtyard, eating her dinner unhurriedly. Patriarch Qin and eldest young Master Qin accompanied her in the courtyard. When she was full, Patriarch Qin asked, "Ghost Doctor, are these dishes to your taste?" They're all good," Feng Jiu replied, wiping the corners of her mouth as she stood up. "I'm going back to my room. You all should go back and rest too." Patriarch Qin saw that she was going to leave and swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He only signaled the servants to clean up the table and left with his eldest son. Not long after they left, the people who were sent to inquire also returned. Patriarch, this subordinate, has asked around in the city and found out that the ghost doctor only arrived in our city a few days ago. However, after she arrived in the city, she's saved. The secret guard reported the information he had gathered to the Patriarch on the main seat. After Patriarch Qin heard the secret guard's words, he was secretly shocked, but at the same time, he also knew that if the ghost doctor could save those two people, she must be able to cure his son. However, there was also a trace of surprise in his heart. No one actually knew where the ghost doctor came from. It was as if she appeared out of thin air, but had such shocking abilities. It was really strange. That night, no one in the Qin clan could sleep peacefully, especially the Qin clan master and Madame Qin. Patriarch Qin, who was standing by the window with his coat on, sighed softly and turned back. He paced back and forth in the room, restless. The ghost doctor had said that it would depend on whether or not Hung Air could make it through the night. It probably wouldn't be that simple. Could it be that something evil would come tonight? Thinking of this, he had the urge to go to the courtyard to see what was going on. But thinking of the ghost doctor's instructions, he could only give up in the end. Even so, his heart was still concerned about the situation over there. "Master, do we need to go and take a look at Hanga? With only the ghost doctor standing guard there, my heart is in a mess. I'm very worried. Tell me, if something happens, the ghost doctor is only a woman. How can she handle it?" Madame Qin didn't even take off her coat. She paced back and forth in the room, looking outside from time to time. She had made up her mind that if there was any movement in the courtyard, she would rush over to take a look immediately. However, she was still quite a distance away, so she couldn't see the situation in the courtyard. She felt very uneasy. Chapter 32-39. On the other side of the courtyard, Feng Jiu was resting on a soft couch in the room. As the night deepened, the outside was completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. There was no light in the room, and it was pitch black. Hence, Feng Jiu was lying on the soft couch. If one did not pay attention, it would be difficult to notice that there was another person there. After midnight, the rustling sound of leaves rustling in the wind could be heard from outside. There was also a faint sound of the wind patting on the door and windows. The night breeze blew in through the cracks in the door and the half-open windows. It was icy cold and seeped into one's skin, causing one to shiver involuntarily. The room was completely silent. Feng Jiu, who was lying on the soft couch, had already opened his eyes. His pair of clear eyes quietly looked into the pitch-black room. She retracted her aura and silently blended into the room. Only when she saw a few faintly discernible figures fighting to be the first to enter the room did she narrow her eyes and stare at the few phantoms in front of her. "This brat's body is about to die. Let me use this body." "No, we've already agreed that this is mine." "How can that be? This kid looks like he's about to die. I should be the one who put in the most effort. This body of his is naturally the most suitable for me to use." I'll do it," one of the phantoms said and pounced forward. However, when the transparent figure pounced forward, it was repelled by a dazzling 8 trigrams that emitted a golden light. The phantoms pounced forward and did not leave any room for maneuver. This pounce used up all of their strength. Hence, their entire figure was struck by the light from the 8 trigrams and instantly disappeared into the air, leaving behind only a blood-curdling scream that reverberated in the air. Hearing such a scream in the middle of the night shocked the Qin family members so much that they wanted to rush over to take a look. However, when they remembered Feng Jiu's instructions, they could only suppress the worry in their hearts and continue to wait. Meanwhile, in the side room, The unexpected scene shocked the few phantoms. They stared blankly as one of the phantoms disappeared into the air. Their eyes were filled with fear, and they all took a few steps back. What's going on? This brat has a treasure on him. We can't get close. You didn't have any last night. How come you have a treasure on you tonight? Who did this? The phantom spoke and tried to move forward again. However, it was the same this time. Before they could touch the person lying quietly on the bed, they saw a light emitting from his chest and bouncing them away. Hiss! How strange. This brat is wearing an 8 trigrams ancient jade on his chest. One of the ghosts said hatefully. He was somewhat unwilling to let go of the body that he had guarded for so many years. Then what should we do? We can't get close to this kid. We can only leave first and think of a way. That ancient jade is very powerful. It's not an ordinary jade. If we force our way in, I'm afraid we'll end up with our souls scattered. Then let's go first. The ghosts were discussing about leaving, but at this moment, a gentle voice with a hint of laughter was heard. They were so shocked that they let out a low cry and quickly gathered together. Since you're here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Fengjiu stared at the phantoms with great interest. The corners of his lips curled into a devilish smile. Chapter 3240. It was a woman. She was dressed in tattered clothes, but had a beautiful face. She was lazily lying on the soft couch with a walking stick by her side. She stared at them with a teasing and evil charm. Being stared at by this woman's cold eyes, they couldn't help but be shocked and instinctively wanted to run. However, just as they were about to float out of the room and quickly leave, the woman's voice sounded. She slammed the walking stick in her hand on the ground, and a soul-binding array appeared on the ground, trapping them inside. Since you're here, do you think you can still escape? Fengjiu narrowed her eyes and stared at the ghosts. Let us out. Who are you? We have no enmity with you. Why do you want to harm us? Hearing the ghosts' cries, Fengjiu chuckled and picked up the gourd that her sister, Wanyan Qianhua, gave her. She twisted the lid open and pointed the mouth of the gourd at the ghosts. You can only blame yourselves for being ghosts. Instead of staying where you should be, you came out to bring disaster to the world. It would have been fine if I hadn't met you, but since I've met you, how can I not deal with you? As soon as she finished speaking, spiritual power surged from the gourd in her hand, and a powerful suction force suddenly sucked the ghosts into the gourd. As the ghosts were cleaned up, the cold aura in the room seemed to silently dissipate. She shook the small gourd and put it on her waist. After glancing at the soul-binding array on the ground, she formed a seal with both hands and removed the soul-binding array on the ground. She finished all this in less than the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. She lit up the lamp in the room. When the lamp lit up, she was surprised to see that the person who was supposed to be asleep on the bed had already woken up and was looking at her with his eyes wide open. Awake! Fengjiu raised her eyebrows in surprise. You saved me. Second young Master Qin looked at the strange woman. He wanted to get up but found that he had no strength. He could only ask, Who are you? I'm your savior. Fengjiu said, as if she was telling the truth. She limped forward and sat down beside the bed. She reached out and naturally felt his pulse. Yes, your vitality has recovered a lot. Your pulse has also become stronger. Most importantly, the evil aura in your body has dissipated. I estimate that you should be fine after soaking in the medicinal bath again. As Fengjiu spoke, she withdrew her hand and saw him looking at her in daze. She asked, What? Do you still have something to ask? Who are you? Second young Master Qin asked. He felt that this woman was very strange. She was actually in the same room as him in the middle of the night. Moreover, she had a calm expression. In the scene just now, those Fengjiu stood up and looked at him with her walking stick in one hand. You can call me Ghost Doctor. As she spoke, she turned around and lay down on the soft couch. She took a blanket from the side and covered herself with it. She closed her eyes and rested. Have a good night's sleep. When you wake up tomorrow, you'll find that your body has recovered a lot. Fengjiu narrowed her eyes as she spoke. She ignored him and went to sleep. Naturally, She forgot to inform the Qin clan members who couldn't sleep and were waiting. As a result, she made them wait for an entire night. It wasn't until the next day that Patriarch Qin and the others hurried to the courtyard when the sky brightened up. Chapter 32:41. Hearing his father's voice from outside, second young Master Qin, who was lying in the room, was stunned. His father? How could his father let a woman stay in a room alone for an entire night? Even if it didn't mean anything to him, the other party was still a woman. This would damage her reputation. At this moment, the woman lying on the soft couch stood up and walked out with her walking stick. The door opened, and he heard his father's careful voice. "Ghost Doctor, how's my son? Is he all right?" Feng Jiu yawned and said, "And you can boil the medicine again today. There's no need to boil it. Just let him sit in the bathtub and soak. When the water turns cold, change it to hot water." As she spoke, she paused and said, "Didn't you arrange a courtyard for me? Find someone to bring me there." "Yes, yes." He hurriedly turned back and said to his eldest son behind him, "Bring the Ghost Doctor over personally. Ghost Doctor, this way, please." Eldest young Master Qin gestured for her to leave. Feng Jiu nodded slightly and followed him out of the courtyard to another courtyard. After she left, Patriarch Qin, Madame Qin, and the others all rushed to the side room. When they saw their second son, who had already woken up, they were extremely excited. That's great, that's great. It's good that he's awake, it's good that he's awake," Patriarch Qin said excitedly. For a moment, he didn't know what to say and just nodded happily. Hunger. Mother was worried to death. "Quickly let Mother take a look." Madame Qin quickly walked forward and looked him up and down. She couldn't help but cry. "You've been unconscious for days and nights." Mother was worried to death. Second brother. The young girl also happily squeezed forward and called out, "Father, Mother." Second young Master Qin called out from the bed. Because his body was weak, his voice was weak. He lay on the bed and asked, "Father, who was that person just now?" "She's the Ghost Doctor. She saved you." Patriarch Qin briefly explained the situation to him. On the other side, eldest young Master Qin also came over after sending Feng Jiu to rest. Entering the side room, he strode towards the inner room. Seeing that his second brother had already woken up, he couldn't help but reveal a smile. The Ghost Doctor really has a way. I didn't think that second brother would be able to wake up so quickly. This is really great. Big brother. Second brother, your body is weak. You should take care of yourself first. Don't worry, the Ghost Doctor said that as long as you take care of your body, there won't be any big problems in the future. On this side, their family was gathered together. On the other side, Feng Jiu was lying on the bed, flipping through books on talismans. She flipped through them all morning until it was almost noon. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, revealing a smile. "You still want me find it?" She turned over and got off the bed. She limped over to the table and sat down. She took out cinnabar and talisman paper from her space and began to draw talismans according to the instructions in the book. Her first attempt was unsuccessful. However, after wasting more than 10 talisman paper, she finally drew a talisman that could be cracked. "I have to try." There was a bit of eagerness in her eyes. She stretched out her weak leg and rolled up her trousers. She held the talisman between her two fingers. With a thought, a flame shot out from between her fingers and ignited the talisman. Crack! Chapter 32:42. At the same time, the bark-like thing on her hand also disappeared along with the mark. Seeing that the bark on her hand had disappeared, she stretched out her left leg and kicked it. As expected, she regained her strength and senses. Seeing this, she couldn't help but chuckle. This old man, does he think that I can't solve it just because of this? He's underestimating me too much. She stood up and practiced a set of Tai Chi in the room. After moving her muscles and bones, she felt refreshed. However, looking at the clothes on her body, she frowned and studied it left and right. She murmured, "I don't believe I can't take off these clothes." She didn't use any other methods. Instead, she called for the people outside to prepare water for her bath. Then, she came to the bathtub and urged the life flame in her body. Once the flame on her body burned, it didn't take long for her clothes to be completely burned away, revealing her snow-white skin. Simple, direct, and violent. She smiled with satisfaction and stepped into the bathtub to take a good bath. At the same time, Dan Wang in Dan Wang's valley seemed to have sensed something. He opened his eyes in meditation, and a trace of surprise flashed across his wise eyes. This little girl actually broke my talisman? She even knows this? What a surprise. After taking a bath, Fengjiu changed into her favorite red robe. It was a simple outfit, but it revealed an extraordinary aura. Ghost Doctor. When Patriarch Qin's voice came from the courtyard, she opened the door and walked out. She, who was dressed in red, didn't need the tree branch as a walking stick and didn't wear those tattered and dirty clothes. When she walked out like this, the two people in the courtyard were stunned. They were somewhat startled and also somewhat stunned. Ghost Doctor? Patriarch Qin looked at her in surprise. Her face was not bad, but her tattered clothes and the way she walked with a limp. Why did it seem a little different? When Patriarch Qin looked at the beautiful and cold woman dressed in red, his eyes couldn't help but flash. The shock in his eyes couldn't be concealed. He knew that she was extremely beautiful, but he didn't expect that a person with the same face would have such a different aura after changing her clothes and throwing away her walking stick. Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and raised his voice slightly. His drawn-out voice and lazy reply made the young master of the Qin family's heart skip a beat. He couldn't help but lower his eyes and didn't dare to look at him. Patriarch Qin, on the other hand, calmed himself down and said, "Ghost Doctor, how much longer does my second son have to soak in there? You've been soaking in that medicinal bath ever since the Ghost Doctor came this morning. Will your body be able to take it if you continue to soak in it?" Fengjiu looked at the sky and said, "I'll go with you to take a look." As he spoke, he walked out. Patriarch Qin and Patriarch Qin naturally followed behind. Looking at the Ghost Doctor, who walked in front with light steps and seemed to be in a good mood, the father and son looked at each other and suppressed the doubts in their hearts. Fengjiu arrived at second Patriarch Qin's courtyard. The moment she entered, she saw that Madame Qin and young Miss Qin were also there. As expected, they all had shocked expressions when they saw her. Chapter 3243. Ghost Doctor. Isn't it inappropriate to go in now? Is soaking naked in the bathtub this? Actually, she was only worried that the Ghost Doctor was a woman. If this spread, it would be bad for her reputation. After all, men wouldn't be at a disadvantage in this kind of thing. Hearing this, Fengjiu turned around and smiled wickedly. "Naked? It's fine. It's not like I haven't seen your second young master naked before." Hearing this, Madame Qin was stunned and didn't know how to react. This was different from what she had imagined. The Qin father and son who followed behind were also stunned when they heard this. However, thinking that the Ghost Doctor wasn't an ordinary person, they didn't say much and just let the people in the courtyard leave first. "Help your mother back to rest. We'll take care of things here." Patriarch Qin instructed his youngest daughter and indicated for them to leave first before walking inside. Inside, Fengjiu walked toward the bathtub. Seeing second young Master Qin sitting in the bathtub, his face flushed red. "Men and women are different. How can you come in like this?" Fengjiu glanced at him. "Don't worry, in my eyes, you're not a man yet." Indeed, she only treated this person as a patient and didn't treat him as a man. Moreover, it was just a man's body. Her husband's body was the real deal. Others were just SOSO in her eyes. Hearing this, second young Master Qin's face flushed red, but he didn't know what to say. He could only stare at her. He had never seen a woman like her. It was really outrageous. "Give me your hand." As Fengjiu spoke, she didn't actually get too close to the bathtub. Instead, after second young Master Qin extended his wrist, she checked his pulse and then nodded. "All right, you can get up now. I'll get someone to boil some medicine for you to drink later. You'll be fine after you nurse your body back to health." As she spoke, she walked out without looking at the person in the bathtub. Patriarch Qin and eldest young Master Qin, who had just come in, looked at each other. One of them went out, and the other went forward to help their younger brother out of the bathtub. They then called for someone to come in and help him to the bed to rest. Patriarch Qin. Fengjiu sat down at the stone table in the courtyard and looked at Patriarch Qin, who had followed him. Yes. What orders does the ghost doctor have? Patriarch Qin hurriedly stepped forward and asked. Patriarch Qin, there's something I need your help with. Fengjiu looked at him and said. Hearing this, Patriarch Qin hurriedly said, Ghost doctor, feel free to ask. As long as it's something I can do, I will definitely not decline. Fengjiu nodded and said, I want to temporarily stay in your residence for a period of time. In addition, help me spread the news that those who suffer from incurable diseases can come to my residence to seek treatment. However, there are a few points that need to be made clear. She paused and looked at him. First, I won't treat those who are not dying. Second, I won't treat those who are evil and not righteous. Third, I won't treat those who are not pleasing to the eye. Also, there are only 97 slots for treatment. Hearing this, Patriarch Qin was startled. Then, he recovered and replied, Yes, I'll arrange this immediately. After Patriarch Qin agreed, he left first. He planned to personally arrange this matter and couldn't be careless. After he left, eldest young Master Qin also walked out and came in front of Fengjiu. Chapter 32-44. Fengjiu glanced at him, asking, Is there a problem? That old man had told her not to look for him, and that she could only rely on luck. Puffed. If she really relied on luck, then how long would she have to stay here? Furthermore, the matter she had asked Master Qin to do was not for her to look for the patient, but for the patient to look for her. She still had a choice. Meeting that pair of eyes, his heart shook, and he couldn't help but lower his gaze. No problem. I'm just a little curious. Hearing that, Fengjiu chuckled lightly, playing with her hair, saying carelessly, It's better not to have curiosity, especially when men are with women. Don't be curious, because once you're curious, you'll want to investigate, and if you're not careful, you'll be consigned to eternal damnation. This is not a good thing. Hearing that, a trace of panic flashed across eldest young Master Qin's eyes, and his face turned pale. He didn't even dare to look at Fengjiu, only lowering his head, saying, Yes, the ghost doctor's teachings are right. I'll remember it. I remember that I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Saying that, he bowed and hurriedly left the courtyard. Looking at his back, he even looked like he was fleeing. Fengjiu glanced at the departing figure and calmly retracted her gaze. How could she not know the change in eldest young Master Qin's eyes when he looked at her? If it weren't for the fact that this family had a good population, she wouldn't have stayed here and used them to do things. The second young master of the Qin family, who was resting on the bed in the room, was now lying on the bed and staring blankly at the ceiling. The conversation outside had not been hushed, so it had reached his ears. Hearing the warning contained in the careless voice, he slowly closed his eyes after being stunned for a moment. Actually, it was normal for eldest brother to be curious about the ghost doctor. Not only eldest brother, he was also curious as to why such a woman would appear here, curious as to what kind of person she was, curious as to everything about her. However, she was right. It was best not to be curious about things that one shouldn't be curious about, especially a man's curiosity about a woman. If one didn't restrain their curiosity, the more curious they were, the more they would want to understand such a person, and the more they would want to know everything about her. Of course, no matter who it was, they all understood that a woman like the ghost doctor was definitely not an ordinary woman, and definitely not a woman they could covet. Fengjiu didn't mention it again, and the eldest young master of the Qin clan didn't dare to probe further. 2 days later, more and more people came to the Qin clan residence. Fengjiu did not check the patients one by one. Instead, he instructed the Qin clan's patriarch to check the patients' backgrounds. With the Qin clan's patriarch checking the patients' backgrounds, things went smoothly. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. During the 10 days that Fengjiu stayed in the Qin family, she had cured many people. Because of this, some people from other towns came over after hearing the news. However, Due to the strange request of the 3 people who failed to be cured, there were not many people who could be cured by her. On this day, after treating the last patient of the day, Fengjiu wrote down a number in her notebook. Looking at the number, her eyes flashed. Chapter 32:45. After finishing her business, she returned to her room, closed the door, and flashed into the space. During this period of time, she arranged the treatment to be done during the day. At night, she would enter the space to study the pill formula that the old man gave her. During this period of time, she had gained some insights. Tonight, she wanted to try and see if she could refine the pill. Thus, after entering the space, she began to make preparations. At this time, in front of the Qin clan's door, a group of people quickly surrounded the Qin clan. The leader of the group stared at the Qin clan with a gloomy face. He raised his hand and signaled for someone to go up and knock on the door. Open the door. Quickly open the door. This group of people came in a menacing manner. Moreover, their bodies were filled with hostility. Along the way, many people followed behind them to watch. When they saw that these people had surrounded the Qin clan's mansion, some people secretly sucked in a breath of cold air and quietly retreated a few steps to open up some distance from these people. Strange, these people don't seem to be people from our city. Are they from somewhere else? A man said. He looked at these people who were filled with hostility with astonishment. He felt that these people's murderous aura was very heavy. It was even heavier than the smell of blood on the bodies of ordinary black martial cultivators. I think there are people who just entered the city. As soon as they entered, they went around asking about the Qin clan's location. I wonder if they are the Qin clan's enemies. A person next to him said in a low voice. His gaze also fell on the people in front of them. These people's murderous aura is very heavy. They don't look like ordinary people, nor do they look like people from aristocratic families. Look at the symbol on their clothes. Aren't they people from the 7 Martial Sect on Four-Eye Mountain? 7 Martial Sect. Hearing this, some people took a closer look. Sure enough, they saw the 7 Martial Sect's symbol on their clothes. They couldn't help but be astonished. Why are people from the 7 Martial Sect here? What do they want to do? This 7 Martial Sect is one of the most prominent factions in the nearby cities and towns. It is said that they have a lot of disciples and their strength is not weak. Although they are not aristocratic families, they are quite popular in the surrounding cities and towns. Even those aristocratic families have to give some face to the 7 Martial Sect. Now that they have found trouble with the Qin family, in my opinion, the Qin family will be in trouble. The Qin clan is a kind and benevolent person. Usually, they didn't offend anyone. Now that the 7 Martial Sect's people suddenly came, could it be that they came for the ghost doctor who lives in the Qin mansion? Targeting the ghost doctor? Everyone looked at each other and said, "That's not impossible. After all, how many days has it been?" The ghost doctor's name is well known here. Maybe they want to ask the ghost doctor to treat their illness? See a doctor? This is not the way to treat a patient. While everyone was discussing in low voices, the knocking on the door was also abnormally loud. The sound of knocking was accompanied by shouts. Not long after, the door opened and a person poked his head out. When he saw the situation outside, he couldn't help but be shocked. What's going on? The gatekeeper asked with a trembling voice. Looking at the people outside who were menacing, he couldn't help but shrink his neck. However, when his gaze fell on the 2 people in the front, his eyes couldn't help but shrink. People from the 7 Martial Sect? Why are people from the 7 Martial Sect here? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.